Hey guys, this is Dallas with a journey into screenwriting. That's what I'm doing here. I'm gonna explain to you how I mapped out my murder mystery, and that is it behind me. It might be glary, so you can't read exactly what it says, which is good. But just in case, I turned some of the tiles over so you couldn't see some of the more important plot points, and I left some of them out completely over here. But I'm just going to tell you exactly how I decided to map the whole entire story out, how I split it up, and things of that nature. Let's get started. So the very first thing I did was try and find out what my hook was going to be. The hook is very important. It should be more specific to you. You shouldn't go and try and do something that might be popular. Find something that interests you and that you're familiar with so that it is a little bit easier for you to write about this subject. I chose restaurants, not because I just love food, but I often work in restaurant settings. So I wanted mine to focus around that. And from there, I decided that since my murder was going to take place in a restaurant, I also, before that, decided that I wanted to be in a closed setting because this murder mystery is something that I am hoping to perform in a restaurant, actually, as like a dinner theater sort of production. So it is a completely different writing style than writing a TV pilot like I am with my friend James. After I decided what my hook would be, that a murder happened inside of a restaurant, that's when I decided to come up with my title. And the title should somehow reference, encompass what the hook is of everything. So that's why I called mine A Dinner to Die For, because it happens during a dinner and someone dies. For a quick rundown of the premise, basically there is a restaurateur who talked to one of his friends and who allowed him to redecorate and show off his menu to some investors. And then they would in turn invest in him and he could create his own restaurant at another location. But in the course of the night, he is killed, specifically poisoned. And then after that, everyone tries to figure out exactly what happened. So after I figured out my hook and then my title, I needed my characters. And you can't see them over here, but I'll tell you, since it takes place in a restaurant, my characters are, of course, the sleuth, then the investor, the person who's going to be funding this restaurant endeavor, an understudy, that is the person that works directly below the victim, the owner of the actual restaurant that is hosting this event, the sous chef of the owner of the actual restaurant, the wife of the victim, and of course the victim. And down here, you can't really see it, but I've left myself an extra character in case I'm not able to finagle everything the way I want to. There's an extra character who I'm calling the server. Now, after I've filled my world with all of these characters, I decided to give them different characteristics, things that would set them apart from each other. Some of them have the same characteristics, things like being abrasive, demanding, and witty, or reserved and helpful, or doubtful, or submissive. Things like this that different characters have that play into their situations or who they are. Like the investor is more forward, a brash type of individual, but his wife, playing to trope, is more timid and shy, but they are both very direct. It doesn't matter what end of the spectrum someone is, they can carry some of the same characteristics, like many of my characters do. After I created all the characters within the story, I created my victim, the restaurateur who was hoping to impress the investors in order to get his restaurant made, his restaurant funded. Now, the victim only appears in the story for a very short amount of time, like most murder mysteries. I decided to make him very unlikable, basically down-talking everyone at the restaurant, down-talking the owner, stating that he is a better cook and better ideas than him, uh, saying that his wife is nothing but like a trophy wife, um, speaking to the investors in a way that makes it seem as if he knows that he's going to get the money, and even talking bad to the audience, the people who will sit down in the restaurant, saying that their area is uncultured and they need someone like him in order to uplift the place. All this together was trying to make the victim a person that no one would like, so it would be more understandable that any of the characters might want to kill him for different reasons. Now, when you're trying to figure out the reason for murder, like all of these people will have different reasons, or different motives, I should say, of why they might have killed the victim. And this is where things got a little bit complicated, and I'll show you one of them so you kind of get an idea of how it all works. For the investor, at the top here, I'll write down clue and then the information obtained. So at every single act, I split it into 2 sections, making it essentially 6 acts, where there will be a clue given from this person, and then the information that was obtained from this person from that clue. This information could be pertinent to the actual murder, or it could be a red herring. And at the bottom of this sheet, I know it's really hard, you can't see, but you can do it any way you want to. I put down what the exact motive would be. So for the first clue from the investor, it's that he has known the victim for the longest, and the sleuth was hired by the investor. So the information obtained was that the investor knows more things about the investor than anyone else. And like he would state his failed businesses in the past and things of that nature. So his motive after this point is fear of losing money, and that is his motive at the very beginning of the story. But as the story progresses and we get more clues and information from each person, everyone's motive can change. Some people's motive will stay the same, but in order to keep things changing and unsure of who is who and what their motive is, different clues come up and different motives change throughout the story. Now, there's one other thing I wanted to show you. The first clues, this is at the opening of the story, the clues from the victim, as this is going to be prepared, or this is going to be acted out in a live situation. There will be certain clues found on the deceased's body, in which the sleuth will ask the wife, hey, can I take these pieces off of the body to find some information? She, of course, says yes. And then these clues will be given out in a packet to each person at each table. So then they can look at the same clues not me, because I will not play the sleuth, that the sleuth, but I'm writing it from his perspective, that the sleuth can share with everyone else, so then they can help figure out what actually happened. So this is my victim's card. I will show you some of these clues because I've made up mock-ups of them in a program. It's called Canva. I use it to make all of my thumbnails for videos and posters for trivia and things like that. But within the app, I created some of these things that will be in the clue packets, and I'll show you them as we go along, if I've created already. So on the victim's body, there will be a letter from a creditor. That's the clue, which tells you that the victim was in debt at the time. It gives you some sense of different people's possible motive. They know that he's in debt. Maybe they're trying to get money from him. Maybe they know that this would be failed no matter what. So it gives a lot of different ideas of where that could possibly go. After that, there is a gambling ticket for a horse race. So we know that this man was gambling lots of money, and maybe the location or the amount of money could have something to do with it. Or it could just further reinforce the fact that he was in debt and he was attempting to claw his way out at any means possible. Maybe he had a problem with gambling and that's how he lost a lot of his money. there are many possibilities that everyone else can try and figure out along with the sleuth. Another item that is found on his person is a pocket watch, and in the pocket watch as a picture of a woman. This woman does not appear to be his wife. And a train ticket. He has a train ticket in his pocket to another location, not to where they currently live. This train ticket will come into play within the story of where he was and why he went there. It may not be explicitly stated, but I'm hoping that I give enough clues throughout the story in order to figure that out. Now into putting out the whole entire story. So as you can see here, or maybe you can't clearly, these are all my characters. And after I figured out how my victim died, that for this certain situation that you want to work backwards, know exactly how it happened and who did it in order to figure out how to fill in that story and how to give everyone different motives. So there are many different motives for murder, but there is a big four. It is power, money, love, and fear. Those are the big four reasons. But there are many subsects for all of those reasons. With power, it could be a fear of losing power or a means to gain power. With love, it could be out of fear of losing it or because you love this person or love someone else and you need them out of the way. And that goes on with every single one of the top four or the biggest four reasons. What I did was made sure I listed one of these reasons for each person in each act or sub-act. So at the beginning of the second act, I gave the clue for, let's say, the sous chef, what it was, what happened, what his clue was, what information was obtained, and then how did that fit into his motive, and how would that motive carry on to further the story, because I already know what the end goal is. And after I did that, I just moved his story forward, maybe keeping his motive the same, or if more information was obtained from someone else, it may dismiss this motive and his motive would have to change into something else, or it would seem that he does not have a motive at all. Again, most of these clues that I put forth for all of these characters will be red herrings, and there will only be partial pieces here and there peppered in to tell the actual story of what happened and who killed our victim. As I stated before in a previous video, my journey to screenwriting #1, that I wrote about 3/4 of the first act, or about the first act, or almost 2 acts of this story. I went back and only kept pieces of it. The premise of it is staying the same, but a lot of the motivations and things like that will change to give an overall feeling of how the story starts, which is mostly prevalent in the very first half of the first act. That is where the story will break for people to be able to get together and look at the clues to figure out what they think they know so far. So I am hoping to be in a 5-course meal. So there will be 6 breaks. Maybe 2 of the acts will be placed together, but a break in between each meal for people to discuss and things like that of what's actually going on. And then at the end of the last act, after everyone has finished their final meal, they will be able to turn in who they think the killer is, and then we'll go to the end of the last act where all the truth will be revealed. But the overall premise, I should have stated this at the beginning, but again, I work on a very loose script and I just like to ramble. All these people are sitting forward at the front of the restaurant, I should say, and the victim is speaking on who he is, what he's trying to do, and he introduces each character. He introduces his wife, tells her she doesn't need to get up to say anything, introduces his understudy, which is a female, who he seems to be very lovey-dovey with. He introduces the investor, hoping that he can make him happy, introduces the restaurant owner, who is allowing him to use the place, saying that he knows more than him and things like that. And then the sous chef to the actual restaurant, who has helped cook most of this stuff. At the very beginning, when they're eating their appetizers, the victim restaurateur dies. That is the initial premise of the story, and everything after that happens from information the sleuth is gathering and from people talking amongst each other. So I'm hoping that this quick little video on how I put everything together or laid this out helps you if you're meaning to, or if you're wanting to write a story similar or any kind of story. Next video I will go into what type of murder mystery, because there are very many different subsets of murder mysteries. I'll tell you exactly what type I chose and tell you about some of the other ones, so you can have an idea of what you would like to do, if that's something you want to do, and give you a feel for how the story might go. Granted, I will leave out certain things because I don't want what's happening in the story to obviously be revealed, but the way I write from here is completely different than the way I write with James. We are very, very structured. We do something similar to this, but within Excel. With me, with this, I see the whole entire story, and I will just freeform write the whole entire story out to see what I can come up with. And from there, I will go back to a second draft after Allison has looked at it. But that's it. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and I will see you guys in the next one. Let me know what you want to see. If there's something else about screenwriting you need to know. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.